Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 3 of the 2023 Nations Cup taking place at Deep Forest Raceway with the 2023 Super Formulas. Let's take a look at the race details, where it's a 24 lap race for those in GT1, 16 lap race for those in GT2 and 3. It is a great start with a false start check. Fuel is at ×4 and tire wear is pretty high at a ×10. You can use the Honda or the Toyota version. They both perform the same. You can adjust your brake balance, and be aware that there are no mandatory pit stops and the only tires allowed are the racing soft tires. So this is an open strategy race for all 3 GT leagues. Be aware that the refueling speed is 10 liters per second and the slipstream strength is set to real, which means that dirty air is gonna be horrendous whenever you're behind someone. That dirty air means that it's going to be much harder to follow behind someone. And do be aware that these super formulas have the overtake feature enabled, so going over to the GT button on the top left hand corner of the screen, going over to options, then go on the controllers tab, choose your input, and go ahead and assign the nitrous/overtake feature to a button. So for example, with me, I'm on the Fanatec CSL Elite and I have the nitrous/overtake button assigned to the circle button. Just go ahead and press OK and you're good to go. Alright, let's get started with the lap guide, where I have the brake balance at +5 or all the way to the back of the car. Wind speed and direction do change after each session, so pay attention to that, as that will affect where you need to brake and how the car handles. So go ahead and bring yourself towards the right side of the track. You're going to brake really late before the 50-meter board. Full braking power, going down to second gear for a bit more rotation. Start to ease off of the brakes as you're turning in, so doing a bit of trail braking. Then go up to third gear or even fourth gear and just be nice and careful getting on the throttle to prevent any sort of wheel spin. These S's can be taken flat out until you reach this point. So when the curb on the left starts, that's where you want to lift off of throttle and turn in. Then before the curb on the left ends, that's where you want to start to brake. Going down to third gear for more rotation, but exit on fourth gear and get back on the throttle. And just after the tunnel ends, this is where you want to start to brake. So again, just after the tunnel ends, going down to second gear for more rotation, but exit on fourth gear and be really careful getting back on the throttle. Really easy to spin out over here. Take this left turn flat out, taking advantage of the curbs. Then brake just as the bridge is about to start. Full braking power, turning in before the curb on the right ends. Going on to second gear for more rotation, but exit on third gear, and again take advantage of the curves as they are still within the track limits. Luckily, it's not like the Olympic time trial where that one was set to competition track limits. This one's a norm, or quote unquote normal track limits. But anyways, for your final braking point, you're looking for the start of the curb on the right, so where the 100-meter board is at. Full braking power, going all the way down to first gear for more rotation. Turn in when the curb on the right ends, and exit on third gear and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Just make sure you have the car straightened up by the time you get on the throttle, otherwise you do risk spinning out. And that is going to be it for the lap guide. So we'll cross the start finish line and then we'll get started with the strategies. But the way I'll do it, I'll talk about the strategies for the GT2 and 3 leagues starting right now. Alright, so welcome to the GT2 and 3 league strategies. I'll talk about the GT1 league strategies later on, but let's go ahead and get this started. So for those in GT2 and 3, this is a 16 lap race. Great start with a false start check, so make sure you have traction control at 1. Keep your foot on the brake until the lights go off. Once the lights go off, that's where you can let go of the brake and off you go. And do try to survive turn number 1, because everyone is going to bunch up on turn number 1 trying to fight for a few spots. Maybe even try to fight for the lead right away, because yeah, dirty air is going to be horrendous, especially as you go through what I'm going to call the infield section of the track. Good luck trying to keep up with anyone ahead of you, because that dirty air will make you understeer a lot more. It'll feel like you have no grip and you'll kind of just be forced to back off. And for this race, The fuel is a ×4, and because this race is a bit of a short one, fuel should not be an issue. It'll be a little close, but for the most part, fuel should not be an issue at all, so you can rev this car out. And tire wear is a ×10, and tire wear, it gets pretty nasty. So this is where it comes down to the question of whether you want to go for a one stop where you pit halfway into the race, or you're going to try to be a maniac and try to go for the zero stop. If you're going for the one stop, this one is pretty straightforward, where you pit at around the halfway point of the race, you switch over to a new set of racing soft tires, and that's pretty much it. You shouldn't have to refuel in this race. There's also the overtake feature. Beware that there's only a finite amount of it, so you want to use it sparingly. You can use the overtake feature to try to get a pass done on someone. So if you're really catching up towards someone, use the overtake feature. Your car's engine gets a little more power, you accelerate a little bit faster, and it gives you the opportunity to make a pass. And if you're wondering why I'm saying pit at around the halfway point, that's because the racing soft tires will last you around 10 to 12 laps. This will come down to how you drive the car and the brake balance settings that you have. I personally have the brake balance at +5 or all the way to the back of the car. And by pitting at around the halfway point of the race, you're pitting in before the tire wear starts to really take effect on your car. So when the tires start to wear out, you can't carry as much speed through the corners, and you start to lose time. Also, I just want to note, I only use the overtake feature at the start of the race to get past the AI, but for the rest of the race, I don't use the overtake feature, so I just want to put that out there. Anyways, my lap number 2 was a 112.8, and as your fuel lightens up, your car will eventually start to go faster, and you'll especially notice this once you go onto the new set of the racing soft tires. So let's actually go ahead and go to the time where I pit. Alright, so at the end of lap 8, tire wear, it's getting close to the point where the tire wear is going to take effect. My lap times are still looking pretty good. They're all in the 112s except for lap number 1. But I'm going to go ahead and bring myself towards the left side of the track and pit on in. I'm only going to go for a tire change, so no need to refuel. And your pit loss is going to be just under 13 seconds. And it does feel like a bit of a short pit stop, but that's also considering that as you go through the pit stop sequences, you do skip parts of the track. And actually, as you come out of the pit stop, you do skip another part of the track as well. Stay in between the white lines so you don't get a 3-second penalty as you enter or exit pit stops. And after that, you just keep driving fast. Hopefully, you're not behind someone, as their dirty air will make you understeer a lot, and it's going to make it a million times harder to try to get past someone or just stay behind someone, especially as you go through these parts of the track. So let's go ahead and skip on over towards the end of the race. So end of lap 16 for those in GT2 and 3 leagues, where I was able to bring my time down to a 112.0, almost getting a 111. And that's because my car has become lighter as I've used up a lot more fuel. You can actually see that the tires are lasting a bit longer as well because there's less fuel in the car, which means less tire wear. But that's going to be it for the one-stop strategy in the GT2 and 3 leagues. So after 16 laps, my total time was a 19 minutes and 37 second run, with my fastest lap out of 112.0. So now let's go on over to the zero stop, where the car gets pretty terrifying to drive. So going over towards the end of lap number 11, this would be where you would pit if you were doing the GT1 league settings, but because we're not in GT1, we're just going to keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on traction control because I'm going to need it, because my right rear tire just hit 100% tire wear. So this is where the cars need to get really sketchy to drive. You have to be really careful about how much throttle input you're putting in as you go through these turns. Even having to do little courtesy lifts to, oh man, the car is almost stepping out right there. Yeah, the car gets pretty terrifying to drive. And yeah, you just have to be really careful with all of your inputs as your tires eventually start to go. And this is not an easy thing to do. You even saw me turn on traction control at 2 to try to keep the wheels from spinning out. And before I get asked, traction control does not help with tire wear. But using traction control to keep the tires from spinning out way too much. So just trying to be really careful through here. My next tire that is about to go is going to be the right front tire, as the right tires are the ones that tend to take a beating in this race. So you can actually see my lap times on the right side of the screen, where I was getting 112s up until lap number 9, starting to poke into the 113s. Lap number 12 was where I started my first lap with a fully worn tire, so now I'm in the 114s, so losing around 2 seconds a lap now. And you just got to be really careful through here. It's really easy to spin out at this point, so you have to pretty much just drive as carefully as possible. I cannot emphasize this enough if you're going for a zero stop. This feels like it's a huge gamble. I think it is possible to pull off and make it work, but there's so much risk into this where just one little mistake can completely ruin your shot at doing well with this strategy. And you can actually see right now towards the end of lap number 13, my right front tire is just about to hit 100% tire wear, so now 2 of my tires are gone, and it's just going to get worse and worse as the race goes on. And coming towards the end of lap number 15, my left rear tire is about to go still. Just trying to be really careful with the throttle input, and now my left rear tire has 100% tire wear, and now I just got to do one more lap with 3 with 3 worn tires. It's incredibly scary now. Just got to be as careful as possible. There are going to be quite a few Code of Brown moments if you do try to go for the strategy. So again, just trying to be really careful getting on the throttle. And this part right here is where it gets really scary, as the car almost wants to step up right there. Really easy to bend it right there if you're not too, oh gosh. Yeah, that's how scary it gets. You're like, I was so terrified driving this car with these dead tires, and I was actually surprised I didn't completely bend it, but still, that's how scary it can get if you do decide to go for the strategy. And here is the thing about the 1 and the 0 stop through my testing. With the 1 stop, I got a 19 minutes and 37 second run. With the 0 stop, I also got a 19 minutes and 37 second run. So yeah, the 0 stop is viable somehow, but yeah, you have to be extremely careful with how you drive the car, and you just have to hope that you don't bend it, or you have to hope that someone doesn't take you out. And yeah, with again 19 minutes and 37 second run with the 0 stop, it's a massive gamble that can pay off big time, but it is also a massive gamble that can backfire on you big time. So it's up to you to decide whether if you want to risk it all and go for a 0 stop, or play it safe and go with a 1 stop. Alright, so here we are for the strategies for the GT1 League. So for those in GT1 League, this is a 24 lap race. Field is ×4, tire wear ×10. Grid start with a false start check, so make sure you have your foot on the brake, and when the lights go off, that's where you can let go of the brake. Make sure you have traction control at 1 for the start of the race, and off you go. And I will say for this run, I was actually testing brake balance +1, and it didn't really work out for me, so I prefer brake balance at +5. And turn number 1 is going to be a gigantic mess, as everyone's going to bunch up there. People are going to try to squeeze their way through, and if you get stuck behind someone, good luck with the dirty air, because that's going to make you understeer all over the place. And if you try to fight it out with the dirty air, then you're just going to destroy your tires. And as I did with the GT2 and 3 settings for the GT1 Strategies, I'm only using the overtake feature at the very start of the race so I can get past the AI car, but other than that, I don't touch the overtake button again. For those who don't know what the overtake button does, it basically gives your engine more power so you accelerate even faster. You can use it to set yourself up for an overtake, especially as you're going through the main or the back straights, but you only have a finite amount of it. So you want to be careful about how much you're using it and when you're using it, because the last thing you want to do is to realize that you need it and you just ran out of all of your overtake. So just be careful about how much you're using it and when you're using it. So for this run, I'm going with a one-stop strategy. So I'm going to try to go for 11 laps on the racing soft tires, pit on in for fuel and tires, and then go 13 laps on my second stint. And if you're going to go for the one stop, you have to do a bit of tire saving. So you have to be pretty careful about how much steering input you're using, because too much steering input will destroy your tires. You have to be a bit careful about your throttle input, because too much wheel spin from lack of care for throttle input will destroy your tires. Brake balance is also an important factor as well. I suggest +5 because, at least for me, that helped me make all the tires last a little bit longer. Don't use front brake bias because that would destroy all of your tires, which I don't know why that's the case. I know one of my friends tried it with -5 and he saw that it made his tires worse, even faster. So for us, we decided, you know what, +5, I think that's the way to go. In a moment, we're going to go on over to the end of lap number 8, where my lap times are, well, actually, they're a little all over the place. Lap 12, that should have been a 1:12. Same for lap number 7. I don't know what was going on with this run, but I decided to keep going with it because I think I could still get a somewhat decent run out of this. And with this run, my 9th lap was where I noticed that the tire wear was starting to kick in. So I noticed I'm starting to be able to carry a bit less speed through the turns. The car is feeling just a little sketchier to drive if I really try to push it. So this is where I want to try to be a little more careful about how I'm driving the car. Still trying to save the tires, drive as smoothly as possible. Be aware about your turning inputs and your throttle inputs, especially as you're coming out of lower speed corners. That way I can make the tires last. So going over to the hairpin, just trying to be really careful through here. I did feel that the car wanted to understeer a little bit through the final hairpin, so I think part of it is from the tire wear. So let's go ahead and see what the lap time is for the end of lap number 9. It's going to be a 1:13, so around 0.7 of a second slower than my fastest lap time, which was a 1:12.4. And you can actually see that the right rear tire is the one that's wearing out a little bit faster. But now we're going to go ahead and skip on over towards the end of lap number 11, where I was somehow able to make my tires last this long. My right rear tire is on the verge of hitting 100% tire wear, so I know for sure I will not be able to survive lap number 12 with this tire wear. So it's time to go on over towards the left side of the track and pit on in. Now I'm going to go ahead and get a tire change done, and I do need to refuel, so I'm going to go ahead and refuel to where that cute little diamond is. That cute little diamond tells me that if I keep up with my current driving style, this is the amount of fuel I need to be able to finish the race. So we're just talking tire change. I'm losing around 13 seconds, but I do have to spend around another 4 seconds of refueling, so my total pit loss is around 17-ish seconds. And be aware that the overtake feature does use up more fuel, so if you haven't used that much of it by the time you pit, you might need to refuel a little bit more past the cute little diamond. That way you'll still have enough fuel to be able to finish the race after you used up all of your overtake. But now we're just going to keep driving around. Still gotta drive as carefully as possible, but luckily, because we have a bit less fuel in our car is lighter, we can go a little bit faster, and the tire wear is a little bit less worse, which means that our tires will last a little bit longer. So now the goal is to try to still be as smooth as possible with our driving styles to complete 13 laps on the racing soft tires, and well, to make sure that those tires can last to the end of the race. So let's go ahead and skip on over towards the end of the race. So the end of lap number 24 out of 24 for those in GT1 leagues. And yeah, the right rear tire is just about to wear out again. It's getting close to hitting 100% tire wear. So again, you have to be really careful with all of your inputs to make sure that your tires can last the entire stint. So if you're not good with tire wear, if you can't make them last 11 laps for stint 1 or 13 laps for stint number 2, then the one stop may not be for you. That's where you might want to consider going with a 2-stop, which I'll talk about in a bit. Actually, my right rear tire hit 100% tire wear just at the finish line. But anyways, my total time for this was a 29 minutes and 28 second race, so almost 30 minutes of racing. So now let's go over towards the 2-stop. Alright, so in this run, which is where I do the 2-stop, I'm going to pit at the end of lap number 9 for a new set of racing soft tires. Because I know I can do 18 laps on fuel, I'm going to pit at the end of lap 18, get a new set of tires, and do my refuel. That way, I can keep the car pretty light. I'll be able to go a little bit faster, and the tires will last a little bit longer. So, end of lap number 9, that's where I'm going to go ahead and pit on in. But I'm just going to go for a new set of racing soft tires. So in this run, I'm only losing around 13 seconds. So here we go. Getting ready to change the tires. Not going to refuel just yet. Going to save that for my second pit stop. And off we go. So this strategy, the 2-stop, is going to be for those that just cannot make the 1-stop work. If tire wear is just way too much for you, if you just cannot make the tires last 11 laps in stint number 1 or 13 laps in stint number 2, then this is where the 2-stop comes in. Is it the fastest strategy? No, not really. At least in terms of the total times that I got from these tests, the 2-stop was around 4 seconds slower than the 1-stop. And that's mainly due to the fact that you have to do another pit stop. And yeah, your times will be pretty fast, but still, you have to do another pit stop, and that's going to cost you quite a bit of time. And if you get stuck behind someone, especially if they're 1-stop in the race, then it's going to make your life even harder, as the dirty air will make it really difficult to get past him, especially as you go through the infield part of the track. So end of lap number 18, going to go ahead and pit on in. You can pit a little bit earlier if you're running a little short on fuel, but end of lap number 18, that's where I'm going to do my second pit stop. So I'm going to get a tire change done, and I'm going to go ahead and refuel to where that cute little diamond is, as that cute little diamond tells me that if I keep up with my current driving style, this is the amount of fuel I need to be able to finish the race. However, you might want to refuel a little bit more past that diamond, because if you haven't used all of your overtake yet, then you want to refuel with that consideration, as the overtake feature does use up more fuel. So the last thing you want to do is use up all of your overtake in the last stint, and then suddenly find out that you're a little short on fuel. If you ask me if I've been fuel saving, no, not really. I have been exiting some turns at a higher gear, but that's mainly because I'm trying to keep the wheels from getting any sort of wheel spin, as this car has a lot of torque. But that does save a little bit of fuel at the same time, so it does help a bit. But on the main straight and the back straight, I'm kind of just revving out the car. But now I'm going to go ahead and skip on over towards the end of the race. So lap 24 out of 24. And, ooh, car got a little sketchy right there. So with the 2-stop, it's a little bit slower than the 1-stop, but at least with the 2-stop, you don't have to tire save as much. But the additional pit stop will hurt your momentum if you get stuck behind anyone, especially if they're doing the 1-stop. That's really going to hurt your momentum, as dirty air is going to be a real pain in the behind here. So going to go ahead and finish up this run. This run was a 29 minutes and a 32-second run. I know the end screen was like 33 seconds, but that's because of the penalty I got at the end of the race. So in reality, 29 minutes and 32 second run for the 2-stop, so a little bit slower than the 1-stop. So if you can make the tires last, then the 1-stop will be the way to go. But if you cannot make the tires last, then you can fall back to the 2-stop and just try to go as fast as you can, as you need to make up that time loss through the additional pit stop, and hopefully you don't get held up too much by anyone, as again the dirty air is really going to hold you back, especially as you go through these turns. But anyways, that's going to be it for this guide. Hopefully it helps you out a bit in preparing for this race, because oh boy, this race is going to be horrendous with the tire wear and the dirty air. So good luck to anyone that's going to do this race, and that's all for me. So if you like this video, you can press the like and the subscribe and all that good stuff. I have a membership program thing if you want to further support this channel, and just want to give you guys a quick thank you for watching this video. Another quick thank you to the channel members for further supporting this channel, as it really helps me out. So this is Mr. MCA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.